Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, I'm going to be a little bit more on the honest side and kind of talk about what I really do truly think about Horizon Forbidden West, especially now that I've had a chance to go play the game for a few different days. And as well, we've also kind of been seeing a little bit more of a community outreach too as well that I kind of want to go and talk about and go and see. Where a lot of folks are actually kind of pushing their more proper reviews. And as well, we've also been seeing a lot more review bombs of basically people saying like it's a 0 out of 10 worst game we've ever seen. So I kind of want to go and do a little bit of a showcase of all the negative reviews because I feel like if you ever go and see a brand new game coming out, especially for a $70 PlayStation 5 game, you should also have the good, you should also go have the bad. But I also want to go and chime in what I've kind of experienced after playing the game for at this point around like 10 hours or so, and kind of want to go and showcase up some very kind of somewhat tilting things that have happened to me. Now, I do want to go and say I made a video before talking about how I kind of feel like it is a must buy. It's a very good game, and I will go and stand that preemptively before we fully kind of dive into some more of the negatives on this. But I do kind of feel like as I've played more, there's quite a few little small baby things that I myself would have loved to have people that were playtesting the game go and fix the game itself to maybe have an extra like 3 or 6 months to kind of somewhat fully polish, and some things that I kind of think are somewhat unacceptable for especially a Sony game, especially when you compare it to say like a Ratchet and Clank that was pretty much in terms of performance, in terms of actual gameplay wise, pretty much perfect, at least in my opinion. So we have lots of stuff to go talk about for this one. I'm going to first of all cover up the actual news itself, which kind of goes and puts the basis into the part 2 of this of my own opinion on it itself. So as well, if any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 digital console controller, and the Twitter and Twitch stream as well down below. And of course, for these types of videos, I never mind if you guys agree or disagree down below. So just always make sure you guys are nice and proper with that. So first and foremost, we've actually been having a really big uptake when it comes to people kind of critiquing the game, and I kind of want to bounce off that in a few moments. But basically, we've had Horizon, and we've had some very, very hardcore type critiques of it. Even a good example up on this actual thumbnail itself saying it's the usual Sony fare, unrealistic, diverse, inoffensive, sterile, tame, and just another third-person, genocentric movie game custom made for the Reddit crowd. Yuck. And we've been seeing lots of folks over this too, or if you guys even go through Metacritic too as well, which always take Metacritic and all these other various platforms with a grain of salt as always, but there's large amounts of basically people critiquing the game. Now, once again, I do want to say I enjoy the game so far, and I probably will keep on enjoying the game as we keep on going on. But a lot of folks are basically saying like it's on both sides. We're basically like all these kind of like review bombs where it's just massively negative, but also a lot of folks still saying the reverse, where it's just games based on a lot of fake positive 10 out of 10s. But other like, the console war degens, and people always saying like the PlayStation's the best game ever, blah 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 blah. But I want to go and say there's been a lot of really kind of good valid critiques that are thrown in this, and I feel like a lot of people always want to throw away a negative review or someone who's a little bit more on the negative side. I'm someone who always likes to keep everything kind of in the middle, so that's why I'm going to try to keep it up at least for my like part 2 review of this, because there's a lot of good, like a lot of good when it comes to the game, but also a lot of bad when it comes to it too. And now once again, like I will say, like some of these things are actually very well good. Like they're a good proper review. The graphics are great. I thought they were nice. Voice acting, kind of like the facial recognition, beautiful. Combat, I actually really enjoy it. And the story is where it fell short, and I'd be in the same exact boat when some of these people are critiquing this, at least of what I've seen so far. The story itself is overall kind of convoluted, especially if you guys play the very first game, where it's kind of like, what can we kind of do to make the entire game kind of seem a little more on the crazier side, where sometimes I'm watching this and I'm like, this doesn't even feel like I'm playing the same exact game of what's going on, which kind of makes a lot of sense too. I mean, like, they're trying their best to have like a weird, like, post-apocalyptic world with other various stuff. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played the first or second game, although you probably should if you're looking at this video in the first place. But some of the things that they try to push into like the main story wise on like over like the underarching story wise is kind of like so conflicting, because you really kind of feel like you're in 2 different games, which could be in the point, but I feel like it really wasn't in the like pretty much integrated too well. But on top of this too, some of the other critiques you guys can actually go and see, and this is probably I think right here, which I won't even complain about myself, and I'm going to show you guys in my own like gameplay. This is obnoxious. This is kind of one of the biggest things over here. The dialogue is a little bit more on the annoying side, because at the very start of the game, you're kind of slogging through, but it was the same thing that happened the very first Horizon 2 as well. But this is the one thing I hate the most. Platforming is garbage. You need to constantly accessibility or focus option to see where your character can climb. This right here is one of my biggest critiques on it. And also being stuck in environmental objects too as well. Mixed on in. So let me even go and show you guys up my game too. I'm going to launch up my good old Horizon over here, because I'm literally in the very perfect spot to go and highlight this. And once again, I do want to go reiterate that this game is actually worth buying. I have enjoyed this game. I've enjoyed my experience. Literally everything from this. This will have a very slight spoilers, just so you guys all know. But basically for me, I've been playing Horizon itself. The game has been a very, very fun experience. But when it comes to the game, there is a lot of these small little features, even as we're seeing stuff on Metacritic, which a lot of people are kind of X-naying out for God knows why, because some of these are very, very valid critiques. So like I said, this is just like nothing story-wise really kind of super duper crazy mixed on in, just going through the game. And this is where I'm saying, if you guys ever look through this, a lot of the platform does feel kind of awkward. I'm still saying this game's a good buy. Like, I'd probably still put this game a nice, like, 8.59, at least so far, and I'm, like, a decent into the game from doing side quests and stories. But I will go and agree that there's been multiple times where I'm trying to go and climb up something, and I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to be even doing that. Where I've had a chance to go and say if you want to go and jump through something like this, and basically, like, there's pillars. So maybe like a good example is like somewhere more in the earlier part of the game where like you have all these weird pillars, and I was literally thinking I had to go and jump through literally everything over here just to get to the point where I'm supposed to be at. But instead it's kind of just more of a linear progression where you kind of just go and try to find little things to go and jump on top of, like you see like these types of things, and you're like, oh, okay, I've climbed on these before, I just have to jump up and go from there. But that's why the animations are kind of weird, because sometimes the clipping is really strange. Sometimes the animation itself is really strange. Now, these are very, very small critiques at the end of the day, because I do think the combat's fun. I think, like, the overall game and story, it's engaging enough that you're, like, intrigued on it. But a lot of the time, Stray, for this, I never even knew. I literally did not know for this guy that I could not go and physically jump on top of him. So what I would do instead was I was like, let me go and see if there's maybe like a nice little like wire or something cool I can kind of go through and see if I could just like jump up on top of him, maybe like find like a cool thing to double jump into, and then you just end up dying because you walked in the gap. Granted, that's perfectly fine, although sometimes you just don't necessarily fully know when it comes to the game itself. And same thing too when it comes to platforming, is that sometimes there's like those little baby spots, like imagine there's a random like little pulley right here, and it's hard for you to go and physically grab it and see it because you just don't necessarily know. Maybe it's in a dark room, and I'm more so kind of specifically talking about that water function, although I was kind of somewhat drunk as I was going through it. There is a lot of those really small things where you're like, well, what is the point? And as well as you've kind of gone through the game, there is a lot of area that's just not well utilized. So you could even use this as a good example. Once again, I just want to say, I love this game. This game is a good game. I'll probably go and fully beat it, and I probably would still recommend you guys buying it, although in the PS4 to PS5 digital version. But all these little small critiques that people are saying and kind of quote-unquote review bombing on are somewhat actually valid. Because if you guys go through this, there is literally nothing in this open world right here. And per quest area, there's maybe like 2 or 3 different quests per little zone, which is still fun to go and kind of make you explore the world and go from it, with also a very, very beautiful world nonetheless. But look at how much empty space is utilized here. There is almost essentially nothing to do throughout this entire area. It looks pretty to look at. It's a very cute looking game, don't get me wrong. The environments are very sick, but this entire area, there has been basically nothing to do. This entire little square I'm even looking at, all this stuff I'm going through over here, there's just nothing. I'm just casually running through this barren wasteland, which once again is kind of somewhat the point. Like, you're literally going and exploring the Forbidden West and exploring the world, but like we have like one random mob over here in the first place, and it's kind of just going and chill. And it does kind of sting too, because all the combat is kind of very similar. While you do have all the gadgets, it's very, very nice. At the end of the day, it's just almost more efficient just to always go keep on using your bow and just doing this and doing some big damage as you possibly can. If they get a little bit closer, then you go and hit them on up. You just kind of see in terms of like, that's been one of my usual format style of going through the game. Now you do get more different things you go on. You get like shock, trapsters, fire bows, you could upgrade stuff and all that stuff mixed on in. But it is like somewhat a very, very consistently same repetitive game mode too. And some of the story characters you can kind of just basically ignore if you guys want to, but for an RPG that's totally fine. But so overall, like I do want to say, we have been seeing proper review bombs of people saying this game's like a 0. The game is not a 0. The game is not awful. It's a very well-made game with heart put into it. But I will go and agree, there's a lot of things that I wish the game had an extra 6 months to go into. And nowadays with the pandemic, I totally understand it because it's hard to go and utilize that in the first place. But in terms of like platforming, the platforming itself is trying to be like an Assassin's Creed game or Uncharted game. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel smooth. Even looking like this jumping itself. Now this is just me mindlessly jumping, but this doesn't feel like this is a smooth running, like stealth type style, parkour type style game when it comes to this. It feels weird. The animations feel janky, and this is probably just a perfect example of just how weird everything feels. It doesn't feel like you're literally playing the character. It doesn't feel like it's kind of fine-tuned, and that was one of my big critiques. If you play in a game like an Assassin's Creed, you feel like the weight of the character. You feel like the movement, and getting stuck in some random pillars because you're jumping around, you're not really sure where you're supposed to go to next, is a little bit more on the rougher, stranger side. In terms of also when it comes to this stuff too, when it comes to open areas where there's a lot of stuff not to do, it does kind of stink. When it comes to story, you can kind of go and tell already where the story is going to go, and I may be corrected in the future because this is more so my like part 2 review of it. Maybe I'll have like a more unofficial, fully done review on it. But when it comes to this, there's a lot of critiques, and I think a lot of them are very valid critiques. The story is kind of generic. The actual gameplay itself is fun, although can get repetitive. And of course, as well, when it comes to parkour and animation, I really do wish it was just a little bit more smooth and a little bit more fun. But at the very end of the day, the game is still a very, very good game. I would still recommend buying it. I've been enjoying my experience. And while there is a lot of negatives too that are somewhat warranted and also somewhat being review bombed, I do think people sometimes have to go and not give a game a 10 out of 10, although you can still give like a nice 8, a nice 9. There's always going to be some sort of negatives, there's always going to be some sort of fixes, and especially as you play through the game more and more and more proper critiques do keep on coming up and up and up. Although there is a lot of good positives, as I mentioned, there's a lot of really good graphics, the art styles are amazing, the gameplay, while it is a little bit maybe repetitive at this point, does flow very, very good, and as well, the story is also kind of, you know, a little cringy, a little whatever, but at the same time, the story is a very small part of the game, especially when you care more about like the platforming and the actual gameplay itself. So overall, I still enjoy the game. I still think Horizon's good. Do I think it should be getting a 0? Absolutely not. Do I think it should be getting a 10? Absolutely not. Do I think it also should be a $60 game? Yes. And I'm still kind of upset that Sony keeps on trying to push for the $70 price point, but that's just me. So there is critiques, there is also valid critiques, and if you guys do see a lower review, like a 1 to 2 star, well, I wouldn't necessarily say this game is a 1-star game. Kind of maybe go look at their proper takes of why they dislike it and why they don't like it, and kind of also maybe think about that whenever you guys are playing games in the future. But as I mentioned throughout this one, I would still go and say Horizon is a must buy. It's a very good game if you guys have a PS4, PS5 system. It does run good, there's very minimal bugs, and of course as well, the game is a good, proper game. Now, this may go and change if I'm 30, 40, 50 hours into the game itself, but quite a few hours into it already, I do have to say the game is worth playing. I will probably keep on playing it, although I do want to also reiterate some of the proper critiques that people are throwing out are proper and legitimate, and you shouldn't go and just dismiss them for no big reason just because it's a PlayStation 5 game overall. So hope I didn't step on any bad toes or say anything rough, but in my honest opinion, this game could definitely be better. It could have definitely been better with another like 6 months in there, and there's a few things that definitely go and irk me too as well, but at the end of the day, it's still a good game, still, in my opinion, a good buy, and especially if you're PlayStation 5. So kind of give me your thoughts and comments down below. A little bit of just a ramble video mixed on in with it just to go and say, and overall, I kind of want to hear your thoughts and comments down below too as well. You guys may agree, you guys may disagree. It's kind of just like off the top of my head and my kind of raw emotions for this. So I probably could have did a little bit better if I kind of like sat down and fully wrote down everything, but I feel like sometimes raw is better because you kind of feel it even as you're kind of like running around throughout the map and feeling the gameplay too. So kind of give me your thoughts, give me your comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 disc, digital console, and controller. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching. We'll have some more proper restock videos and other gaming news all mixed on in. Love you guys.